So here's what I was thinking. Whether you were sitting in the rear facing seat of the old family station wagon or sitting in the back deck of that rear window of the family sedan, when you saw that big teal roof coming up on the side of the highway, you knew exactly what time it was. Pecan log time. Maybe it was dusk. Maybe bugs were already stacking up onto the windshield. Maybe your dad had just said, "We'll stop in 5 minutes." Which meant 20, but then you saw it. That turquoise roof glowing like a promise. Suddenly, the whole car just felt different. You weren't just on a road trip anymore. You were about to stop somewhere that mattered. That place was Stuckey's. Pull your lap bar down, keep your hands inside, because we're headed deep into the sweet, sticky road trip heart of the middle of fun. Today, we're talking about a place that wasn't just a stop, it was a tradition. Stuckey's began in 1937 in Eastman, Georgia, of all places. When W.S. Sylvester Stuckey Sr., he borrowed just $35 and opened a simple roadside pecan stand. No big vision, no corporate roadmap, just pecans, honesty, and his wife Ethel's candy recipes. And out of that little stand came one of the most iconic road trip treats in American history. The pecan roll. Nougat center, caramel coating. Crushed pecans on the outside, and a bright red cherry buried right into the center of it like a sugary treasure. What started as a stand became a store. What started as a store became a chain. And what started as a chain became part of the American highway itself. By the 1950s and 60s, Stuckey's had exploded across the country. More than 350 locations stretched across nearly 40 states. Those teal roofs became beacons, not just for gas, not just for bathrooms, but for relief, for sugar, for air conditioning, souvenirs. For that moment when that long road trip paused and the good part began. Inside of a Stuckey's, everything smelled like sugar, coffee, and the heat of asphalt seeping through the front door. Racks of postcards spun slowly near the registers. Shelves overflowed with pecans, pralines, candy ropes, snow globes, joke gifts, and souvenirs you didn't even know you needed, but you absolutely had to have. Wood floors creaked, doors chimed. Every kid in the place was locked onto that candy counter like it was sacred ground. And for Gen Xers especially, Stuckey's wasn't just a stop. It was a checkpoint in childhood. If you grew up riding along I-10 between Houston and Beaumont, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The stretch of road holds family arguments, AM radio, and that unspoken contract between parents and kids.
If y'all behave, we'll stop at Stuckey's.
You didn't even have to ask when you saw that teal roof coming. The decision had already been made by fate. Like so many other roadside legends, the world changed. The interstate highway system rerouted traffic. Travel got faster, and Stuckey's, after being sold to new corporate owners in the 1960s, it slowly started to lose its soul. The turquoise roofs faded, locations closed, some became shell stores, others vanished completely. By the late 1980s and 1990s, Stuckey's went from being everywhere to something you actually had to explain to people. And for a while, it had finally felt like the road had finally passed it by, till the story took its best possible turn. In 2019, the founder's granddaughter, Stephanie Stuckey, bought the company back, not as an investor, not as a brand manager, but as family. She sold her house, hit the road, and started personally visiting every remaining Stuckey's that she could find. Some were thriving, some were barely standing, some were nothing more than cracked concrete and broken signs. But she kept going, listening to franchise owners, collecting stories, tasting candy, learning what still worked and what had been lost. Then she did something powerful. She brought the candy back home to Georgia, back to its roots, back to its soul. She relaunched the pecan log rolls, revived the classic recipes, restored the look, rebuilt the online store, and started slowly, carefully rebuilding Stuckey's, not as a giant chain, but as something meaningful again. And that's the part that hits the hardest. Because Stuckey's doesn't need to be everywhere anymore, it just has to be real. For Gen X, Stuckey's isn't nostalgia packed up by a marketing team. It's muscle memory. It's the way your parents' voice sounded when they said,
All right, we'll stop.
it's that first bite of a pecan log melting onto a dashboard napkin. It's the bathroom break that turned into a half-hour wonder through postcards, candy bins, and souvenirs shaped like little state outlines. And because of one granddaughter who refused to let it fade, that memory now, it gets a future. Not a reboot, not a parody, a continuation. A place where kids can climb out of that back seat, hear that same door chime, smell that same sugar in the air, and have no idea they're stepping into something that once saved their parents from boredom on a 12-hour drive. So maybe that's the magic of Stuckey's. It didn't try to become something new. It just survived long enough to remind us of who we were. And somehow that's enough. If you got a Stuckey's memory, a road trip, a pecan log, a weird souvenir, a moment that stuck with you, email it to themiddleoffun@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your story. Follow The Middle of Fun on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, X, TikTok, and on Instagram at TMOF Podcast. Because no matter how far the highway stretches, there's always that one stop that stays with you. Stay safe, stay nostalgic, keep your heart in the middle of fun.